Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene. Won't be ranting today. Today, actually, I'm going to be talking about what a lot of people are talking about. It really is the big news event of today, the day before you're seeing this, and the day after it was announced that there's an end has been agreed to the Israel-Hamas war, Israel-Gaza, and the release of all the hostages within 72 hours. Now, as I'm recording this, the day before you're seeing this, 8 o'clock in the evening Israeli time, so it may already have happened. The Israeli legislature, the cabinet, the Knesset are supposed to meet to vote on agreeing to the deal. It looks like it's going to pass with overwhelming support. The only people that I believe, to vote against it are a few very holdouts on the very far right. I'll get into that, but first, because this well, it just shows you. Well, let me just give you the headline. Here it is: Gazans join Israelis in chanting Trump's name over ceasefire. Nobel Prize to Trump. Jubilant locals in both Gaza and Israel took to the streets early Thursday to celebrate President Trump for his role in the historic ceasefire deal, with many calling for him to get the Nobel Peace Prize. Footage from both the streets of Tel Aviv and war-torn Gaza showed crowds of revelers celebrating what they hope will be the end of the two-year war as they hailed Trump for helping secure the deal. Donald Trump residents in Gaza could be heard cheering after the news broke Wednesday night. So there you go. That's what really kind of floored me, that the Gazans are celebrating too. A lot of them, which just shows how much Gaza, a lot of Gaza. Now, there were some other people that were in Gaza. Some of the Gazans were celebrating Hamas, claiming it was a victory, or pledging their support to Hamas. So it was not universal, but obviously you have a lot of Gazans who are praising Trump, who want to see this over. And it reminds me that also when they're talking about Israelis supposedly, accused of deliberately shooting Gazans, going to the Gaza Humanitarian Fund to get aid. And then I believe I showed you in one of my earlier vlogs, people cheering the Israelis for guarding the aid, and so they could get to them without Hamas stealing it. And even in one case, shouting Trump, 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 same thing. So that is and it's going to be interesting. Actually, there are already demonstrations, pro-Hamas demonstrations, anti-Israel demonstrations, as soon as this deal, to which Hamas agreed, and practically the whole rest of the world also, except maybe, actually, I think Iran even said, like under the table, that they supported the agreement, because Hamas was on the verge of destruction, because Trump was saying, Hamas said, "This is it. Either agree or I let loose the Israeli dogs of war." That they have, unlike Biden holding back, and even Trump holding back earlier, various times, saying, "No, they will have full reign to. We won't pressure them to stop. They'll go in and finish the job." And yet the Israelis already a bit over half of Gaza City, which was the last holdout area where the Hamas was holding out, only because the Israelis hadn't gotten around to invading it yet, because that's where the hostages are, and they were wary of hurting the hostages. Anyways, so that lit a fire under them, but you're seeing these anti-Israel demonstrations too, saying actually the same thing that these right-wing Israeli parties are saying, but from a different perspective. Obviously, the right wing in Israel, far right wing in Israel, opposing the deal, criticizing the deal, or condemning the deal, because it doesn't guarantee, in their view, I'll explain why I think they're wrong. They say it doesn't mean the end of Hamas, and plus the release of, in order to get the 50 hostages back, more than half of whom are dead, only 20 alive. To get them back, Israel is going to release about 2,000 terrorists, and I think slightly less than 2,000 terrorists. So the right wing in Israel is saying, well, they're just going to return to terrorism. I think that concern is overblown. I'll get to that in a moment. But just the anti-Israel demonstrators and more here in the U.S. than in Gaza, demonstrating against the deal because it's not favorable enough to Hamas. They want Hamas, that they still have this fever dream of Hamas destroying Israel, which obviously would never, ever, ever happen. I mean, it's just a silly idea. But that's what they want. They're still shouting, Palestine will be free from the river to the sea, yada, 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 the whole mess. So that's where the situation stands. So the main thing is, for these far-right Israeli parties, what they don't seem to get, and there's a question that they could bolt the government if they're not assured that this is going to lead to the end of Hamas. So the main point is, it's a 20-point plan. This is just the first couple of points. The Israelis are going to withdraw just to where they were in July. Okay, so it's not a complete withdrawal, and they'll still have a security zone, whatever happens, around Gaza. Plus, Hamas has to be disarmed. But the main point is, the only which I don't understand why these far-right parties don't get it. I really don't, because the only leverage that Hamas had was the hostages. Once the hostages are released, they have no leverage over Israel. So now Hamas has to disarm. If they don't disarm, or they dawdle or something, that violates the agreement. And then Israel can just sweep in and do whatever they have to do to enforce the agreement, or just say this breaks the agreement and just go ahead, because Hamas will have no more hostages, so no more leverage. So the Israel definitely has the upper hand. That's number one. Number two, the release of these we'll just round it off, 2,000 terrorists. Now, a lot of them, some of these are people who were arrested who haven't even been tried yet, right? So I guess you have to even say they're innocent and still proven guilty, but some of them are not really a threat. And they're just like minor, it's like mafia, the people on the bottom, they're not that big a threat. It's the leadership. And so those are about 250 that are serving life sentences that will be released. Now, Hamas their big prize was this guy named Marwan Barghouti, he's serving, I think, 5 life sentences for his role in terrorism, and that's the one they really want released. And then a couple, 2 or 3 others that are I don't remember their Arab names, I don't remember them, but as bad as Barghouti, none of those will be released. Okay, so the Israelis were adamant on that, but they have to remember, okay, so 2,000 being traded for 50 hostages, 20 living, and then the rest dead. It's 48 hostages, actually, you want to be exact. But they have to remember that there was one Israeli soldier that was kidnapped many, many years ago, Gilad Shalit, and the Israelis traded 1,000 people, including Yahya Sinwar. He was one of the ones that was traded away, 1,000 terrorists to get back one soldier. So I guess if you're making it a matter of math, the Israelis are doing better this time than the last time. But what really matters is that some of these the people that were terrorists that were released for Gilad Shalit, they returned to terrorism, or they tried to return, and the Israelis arrested them, and they're back in prison. So that's what this far-right party has to understand, is that, or one of the other things they have to understand, is that if if there are any recidivists, if any of these terrorists who are released, they go back to terrorism. Well, obviously the Israelis, they're releasing the terrorists. They're not saying they're saying we agreed to release a terrorist. We're not agreeing to let them go back to terrorism and kill Israelis. Obviously, that's not so. That would break the agreement, and the Israelis would be able to rearrest them. If not, so they have to live with the knowledge that the Israelis do with that these people, these terrorists are free, but they can't they can't return to terrorism. If they do, or they can, but they'll be arrested. That's number one. Number two, they would have to cross at least a 1 kilometer security zone of bare ground to do it, unless I guess they could masquerade as pretend to be workers or something coming into Israel. And that's another thing. There's no reason, that's not in the deal, but they're Arabs. They're Arabs, and Egypt is an Arab. They're Arabs, so they can go over the border and work and look for work in Egypt. There's no reason. Israel is a sovereign country. No reason why Israel has to let a single Gazan into Israel to work, because that's what happened before. They were allowing these people into work. Some of them were working on the kibbutzim, and what they were actually doing at the same time, they were spying and creating maps of the kibbutzes and giving the information to Hamas to enable them to more to help with their with the invasion, with October 7. So Israel has to be very wary about letting them back in. But then you have to remember that Hamas is going to be disarmed, and they won't be playing any part in the government. I mean, they may be like American college students that they can march around and chant things, but they won't have any weapons. And I mean, there might be a machine gun here or there. They won't have any more rockets or anything like that, heavy weapons. And there's just one person, one or two people managing to make it across a kilometer-wide bare ground security zone. It's not the same thing as a mass attack. And the Israelis will be able to also observe within Gaza. But the other part, this is the final piece of the puzzle that these far-right parties are missing, which is that, and it's not all the members of these far-right parties. There's one member that was quoted as supporting the deal and agreeing to will vote for it. But what Gaza will be if this deal goes through, and remember, if it doesn't go through, if Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, all these jihadists, if they go back on their word, or if they dawdle, or they try to delay or obfuscate or just create, deceive people, well, they don't have any hostages anymore. So nothing stops Israel from going in. And that's what the final point these people aren't understanding on the far right in Israel, which is that it's going to be, Gaza will be like the West Bank. Now, there was just a story reported earlier that the Israelis raided some location within either Judea or Samaria, I don't remember which one, but they caught a shipment of Iranian weapons, Iranian guns that they were trying to smuggle into the Palestinian, well, not for them, but for into Judea and Samaria for terrorists, for Hamas. Actually, there are members of Hamas in Judea and Samaria, but Samaria and the Israelis found it. The Mossad has very good intelligence, and if they see a terrorist threat building, Israel sends in soldiers and nips it in the bud. Not very good finger there. Got it that time. That's the best I can do. So that's what the situation will be in Gaza. That Israel is not going to let Hamas smuggle in weapons again. Is not going to let Gaza use this aid that comes in. And I would imagine they'd get a lot of help from all these Arab countries who are now part of the deal that which is the other thing that's really unique about this and different, refreshingly different, is that now you have, the Saudis, the Jordanians, all these Arab, the Emirates, of course, all the members of the signatories to the Abraham Accords, all supporting this deal, plus France, England, go right down the line, and they all support it. So they are not going to put money, especially the Saudis and the Emirates and the Bahrainis and Qataris, who really should put a lot of they should foot the whole bill, if you're asking me, because they're duplicity on steroids. They've been funding Hamas for decades. Now they're suddenly changing their tune, and it's credit to Donald Trump. That's one of the reasons. And well, another reason is that they didn't succeed, but they tried to assassinate. They sent a rocket or a missile or a drone or whatever right into Qatar, so that lit a fire under the Qataris too, or the Qataris too. So altogether, the point I'm making here, roundabout way, is that these people they're not stupid. They're not going to put money into rebuilding Gaza just so that Hamas can perpetrate another or October 7th, and the Israelis have to come in and just destroy everything that all this money would have been spent on to rebuild. So they're going to make very sure that Hamas doesn't disarm. And then you also have to remember that part of this deal is that there will be some kind of government, which is going to be some kind of international consortium, some kind of committee. Donald Trump himself would be the head of this committee, I understand. And then I understand Tony Blair will have a high position. Maybe he will do the day-to-day running of it. So they will be in Gaza. I'm sure they will make sure that Hamas disarms, and if not, they surely will let the Israelis know, and the Israelis will go in and nip it in the bud. So I see right now, I see nothing negative about it. Now it's early stages. The hostages have not physically come back yet, and there is actually one Hamas leader saying that this does not end the war, but he's wrong. At least I think he is. I think the war is over. Hamas will never pose a threat to Israel. Hezbollah will never pose a threat to Israel. It's mainly, I don't think Iran will either, because Iran now, Israel, 2 years ago they had a seventh front war. Now they really don't have, it's a zero front war now. Because you can't call Iran a front. Their proxies are no longer effective, and Iran is separated by Saudi Arabia. So they have, they're not on the border with Israel. It's just a matter of acquiring a nuclear weapon, and I don't think the Israelis are going to let that happen. And well, we already know, because they stopped them this time. And now the job will be a lot easier, because I don't think the Israelis are not going to let the Iranians build an underground facility. They won't need us to come in with B-2 bombers and massive ordnance penetrators to go and get a deep down nuclear production facility. But also there have been calls in Congress, we'll see what happens, which is to give Israel some of these massive ordnance penetrated MOPs, let's use that, and the B-2s to carry them, or some kind of weapon, whatever plane would be effective and carry it. Right, as my understanding is that only the B-2s are able to do that. The B-52s, I think, could do it, but they're not stealth. And well, I guess that's enough for today. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate that you guys come in and visit with me for a while, 5 days a week. If you have any comments of your own, I'd love to hear them in the comment section below the video. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Can't say it enough. But most of all, I can't say this enough either. come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.